pH is contained. It's hardly moved this year. My LSI is maintained. My pool's balanced and clear, which may be a surprise to some old school pool guys who learned all that they know a long, long time ago. Oh no, not me. I let physics take control. I don't chase pH. I'm a man who rules his pool. I use enzymes each week, leave without a care. They're working while I sleep. My water's always clear. I'm laughing as I read my chemical receipts. I last used acid O a long, long time ago. Oh no, not me. I never lost control. I contain my pH, 'cause I'm a man who rules his pool.
Welcome to Rule Your Pool, the podcast by Orenda that explains and simplifies pool chemistry so that anybody, regardless of experience, can understand it. I'm your host, Eric Knight, bringing clarity to these subjects so that you can bring clarity to your water. If you're ready to rule your pool, then let's go.
This is episode 127 of the Rule Your Pool podcast. I'm your host, Eric Knight, doing this one alone. Not because I like being alone, but it's really a schedule thing. It is October of 2023, and I've got a lot of stuff to share with you. As you know, I bought a fixer-upper pool, and I've talked about it in a few episodes. We've done a lot of this on Facebook Live, so if you follow us on Facebook, Orenda Technologies, you've probably seen it. We had a theory, and I say we, I really mean me, but I feel like you're part of this journey. How far can physics go? Can we push it past its limits? Can we break Henry's law? Can we break the LSI? Is there some mechanism that I can try to really see how far this can be pushed? And that's what I tried to do. And you will see from the results, they are pretty astounding. It's not just theory. I wanted to make sure what we are teaching you on this podcast is real and proven in the field. So I did it on my pool, a pool that I have complete control over. I don't have to ask permission for anybody to do anything. I can do whatever I want to it. And I did. I could go through every single thing that I did to this pool. I've got it in a spreadsheet in front of me. I'm looking at it. No show notes for this episode, just a spreadsheet. In the first column, I've got the dates of whatever I did. And then I have the action, the chemicals if used, the amount of those chemicals, and a description. So that's kind of how I mapped it throughout the summer, ever since the green pool cleanup. And a lot of it is just repetitive because I wanted to standardize this. I wanted to make sure that I was doing pretty much the same thing every time I chemically treated it. And then I was looking for things. I was looking for algae. I was looking for scale. I was looking if anything was going wrong, if I had to remediate. So as we go through this, I'm going to kind of accelerate and go through because there's a lot of entries here. We have essentially done 22 weeks since the green pool cleanup. Okay, so let's start at the top. And I'm going to tell you the sum of all of this stuff at the end. I estimate that this pool in my backyard has about 24,000 gallons. I've measured it out. I'm trying to get an average depth. It's not exact. I know that because it's kind of an oblong, curvy pool. I don't know the length of the plumbing, that kind of thing. So is it perfect? No. But when I renovate this pool, mark my words, when I do the startup, after this thing gets redone, I will be putting water meters on the hoses, and I will know exactly how full this pool is. I will know the exact volume. It'll have new plumbing in it. but I want to be that precise. And if you are a homeowner listening to this, if your pool is getting refilled or resurfaced or renovated or whatever, put water meters on the hoses. Insist that your pool pro does so. It's easy. And if you are in an area that your swimming pools get filled up with trucks, still use a water meter on the hose. And then ask the truck driver, how many gallons is in this truck? Oh, you're doing 4 of these trucks? Add that to whatever the meter on the hose says, and you're going to have a much more precise pool volume. Write it down. The more accurate your pool volume, the more accurate your doses. I bring that up because everything that I did is based on my estimate of 24,000 gallons. It could be wrong, but I'm here to tell you it worked. So I know I'm not that far off. So let's get to it. May 9th, green pool cleanup. Now, if you remember, on May 9th on Facebook Live, I did this process, and I was so focused on talking to you on the camera that I didn't brush. That was a huge mistake because it took several extra days. It should have been about a 48-hour process. It ended up being like 4 or 5 days. My bad. If you're following our process, stir it up, brush it, get as much debris off the bottom as you possibly can. We did get a lot of debris off the bottom, but it wasn't nearly enough, and I should have stirred it all up. It would have been a much more effective process, so it took some time. Lesson learned. In fact, I'm actually debating next spring just letting it turn into a swamp again, just so I can show how to do it right. I mean, why not? It's my pool. Might as well, right? Okay, so here's what I used. I used liquid chlorine, CV600 enzymes, and PR10,000. That was it. That was the whole green pool cleanup. Specifically, we did a purge dose of CV600 enzyme. That was 2.5 quarts, and the same amount of PR10,000 phosphate remover. I also used 6 gallons of liquid chlorine. You can watch this video on Facebook Live. That was on May 9th. Over the next few days, I was just waiting for it to fall out. And I had multiple videos between May 9th and May 14th. And on May 14th, I finally got it cleaned up. I was scooping things off the bottom and vacuuming it to waste. It was a real mess. Thank you, Rick Fenton. You were the man. He left me his portable cart with a vacuum on it, the trash vacuum pump. It was great. I was able to get it all out, and it was a laborious process. So had I brushed it the first time, it would have been a much easier process to do. But in any event, I'm very grateful for his help. So on May 14th, I balanced the LSI and got this party started. I added exactly 100 pounds of calcium chloride. This raised the calcium hardness to 400 parts per million. In order to do that, I needed to lower the absurdly high pH because the pool was green, and I needed to lower that with 42 fluid ounces of muriatic acid. I decreased the pH so that the calcium could be added. Now, this calcium that I added was chelated with SC1000. Did a full purge 2.5 quarts because I wasn't really needing to chlorinate yet other than for the green pool cleanup. So I didn't put SC1000 in initially until the pool was clear. So I did the full purge knowing that I wasn't going to be able to hold chlorine for, 4 or 5 days maybe. Most of that SC1000, if you remember, went in with my calcium chloride. I actually used my startup barrel. I have a startup barrel that I let some customers use. I put it on the side of the pool. I put the 100 pounds of calcium chloride in the barrel. I put, I think, 1 of those 2.5 quarts directly in the barrel. The rest of it went right into the skimmer. Got it all cleared, put all of the acid, 42 ounces of acid, in that barrel, which is a little more than we recommend. But again, I was here to experiment. I want to push things to the limit. I just wanted to see if it was a problem. It wasn't. The barrel held up just fine. Cleared it right up, put it in the pool, and that acid allowed for that calcium to stay in solution. I did the calculation of what 42 ounces was going to do to my alkalinity. I needed to go up to about 60. All right, and that was 8.41 pounds of sodium bicarb. Essentially, I did calcium, SC1000 and acid in the barrel, dissolved it, pre-chelated it, got it in the pool. Then I went over to the other side of the pool, grabbed a bucket of water, put 8.41 pounds of bicarb in there and started mixing it up. Now, you would never put this in the same barrel, but I went to the other side of the pool and I started slowly adding the bicarb. It didn't cloud up, so I was able to get it all in. No issues. If it had started clouding, I would have stopped, diluted more, or I would have waited till the next day because I don't want to create a local LSI violation. But it didn't happen, so I was pretty grateful with that. So that's basically where we started. That's May 14th. That's a very important day because, spoiler alert, that was the last day this entire year that I added sodium bicarb or acid. Let me repeat that. The last time I added any sodium bicarb or muriatic acid to this pool was May 14th. I am recording this on October 13th. It has been 22 weeks. Remember how I said I really wanted to push this to the limits? I wanted to run an experiment and see what the extremes of what we're teaching could possibly be. I'm not recommending you do exactly what I did. I'm just telling you my experience of what we did to see if it was even possible. And the results are astounding. Come to find out, physics always does exactly what it's going to do. And we have the functionality in the Orenda app that shows the pH ceiling, and it tells you exactly, based on your chemistry, how high that pH is going to get. And it was right. I never had an LSI violation ever since May 14th. It's been balanced ever since. So here's how that happened. I go basically twice a week into my backyard if I'm in town. Sometimes it's a full week. Sometimes it's 10 days. Sometimes I had to have a neighbor come over and do it. But every time I had them write down exactly what they did. Okay? I had the pool serviced twice by Rick. Thanks again, Rick. You're the man. And that's because I was out of town or it was something that I wasn't qualified to do. Like one time I had an issue with the filter. Rick helped me out. Again, thank you for everything. Everything else I did myself. I'm looking at my notes here. Pretty much every time I'm netting leaves because leaves are falling into my pool every day. In fact, I netted leaves this morning and this afternoon, it's like I didn't net anything. There's just hundreds and hundreds of leaves, especially now in October. They're starting to fall, but they were falling all summer. I have this big, I think it's a maple tree or something in the neighbor's yard, and it just keeps dropping these big leaves into my pool. It's driving me nuts, honestly. But anyway, I'm netting leaves, and about every third week I'm vacuuming based on these notes. And the reason vacuuming matters is because I'm vacuuming to waste. And what that means is I'm diluting the pool. I'm taking whole water out and refilling it with my hose. I vacuumed, let me see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. That approximately takes me about 15 minutes. 15 minutes at, boy, I haven't really done this math, but 15 minutes at about 50 gallons a minute. So 15 times 50, that's approximately 750 gallons I vacuumed out of the pool this summer. So, out of 24,000, it's not really that significant, but it does take the pool down an inch, each time I do it, maybe 1.5 inches if it takes extra long. So that's the amount of dilution I had, and then I would refill periodically to replace evaporation or whatever. I also had a lot of rain. We had some torrential thunderstorms this summer. So just assume when we go through this that I'm physically getting leaves out and I vacuumed 6 times. Every single time I treated the pool, I added either a 1/2 gallon of liquid chlorine or 1 gallon. I'm just going to run through these really quick. Week 1, 1 gallon and then a 1/2 gallon on Saturday. On the 25th, I did a 1/2 gallon. I also did 12 ounces of CV600 enzymes. Now again, 12 ounces is based on the idea that I have 24,000 gallons. This pattern repeats itself every week. What I was doing was basically like Tuesday or Wednesday, I would do a 1/2 gallon of liquid chlorine. And then on the weekend, I would do another 1/2 gallon and 12 ounces of enzymes. And I did that repeatedly. So week 1, that's what I did. Week 2, same thing. Week 3, same thing. Week 4, same thing. But this time I added 16 ounces of PR10,000 because my tap water has a bunch of phosphates and these leaves, they keep getting in the pool. So this pattern repeats itself. On the 7th, I chlorinated again, I vacuumed, and this time I flushed the filter, backwash it out, and replaced the DE with 6 pounds. I ended up doing that 3 times plus the initial charging, so I went through exactly 1 box, which is 4 6-pound bags of DE, and water quality is just outstanding. It's working well. Chlorinate again, I just keep repeating this pattern. There's really only 2 anomalies to this pattern. I had 2 major rainstorms. One of them was on August 10th, and I had this mudslide from my yard. I put this on Facebook Live, by the way, and it flooded my pool with like mud green water. I mean, overnight. Like it looked fine the night before, and it was not fine when I woke up, like really bad. And I could see it because it was pouring, and it's just running down this sidewalk, floods my deck drain, and it just floods right into the pool. That was a nightmare. But amazingly, by the time the rain stopped that afternoon, I put this on Facebook Live too, I went out there and everything had settled to the floor. The water clarity was actually really good. CV600 for the win. It really held together, which was great. But it did put my phosphates through the roof. I did the red cap test with PR, and the PR cap test got to like 6-foot diameter quickly. So I knew I had really high phosphates. So I did a treatment there, chlorinated with a full gallon that time, not a half gallon. And then I just continued the pattern. Half gallon here, half gallon on the weekend, 12 ounces of enzymes, so on and so forth. And then on August 31st, it happened again. I did another Facebook Live. Vacuum to waste, exact same thing happened. It settled to the floor, enzymes for the win. It was great. So I hit it again with PR, 16 more ounces. Blah, blah, blah. Now we're into September. Everything's the same. And then another PR treatment. So let me get to the sum of all of this. I added 0 algicides, 0 mineral systems, 0 supplemental anything that was not called Orenda, because I'm trying to prove a point here. Let's see. I added 17.5 gallons of liquid chlorine this summer since the green pool cleanup. And that was 6 gallons. So call it 23.5 gallons is what I added. Rick serviced the pool twice, and I think he used a gallon each time. So let's just call it 26 gallons. Sure, 26 gallons approximately of chlorine went into my pool since May 14th. It is October 13th today. That's 26 gallons of liquid chlorine in 22 weeks. As of today, I have added 100 pounds of calcium chloride. That was on May 14th. And I have not added any since. And I'm going to add 50 pounds, which will take me up to 520. That's 170 parts per million and 24,000 gallons. That's what the Orenda calculator says. It says 50.01 pounds. Perfect. I got a 50-pound bag. I'm ready to rock. So I'm going to use 150 pounds for the year so that I'm ready for the winter. And that's approaching quickly here. I am going to add 3.3 pounds of sodium bicarb to go from 60 parts up to 70 parts. And before you ask, this is for the winter. I maintained my alkalinity between 50 and 60 pretty much the whole year. And oddly enough, this surprised me. I didn't add any bicarb since May 14th. I was expecting to have to do that because, dilution and rain. And I got to thinking about it, and I realized I didn't have to do it because my liquid chlorine was doing it for me. Remember, I'm not adding acid. The reason that you don't ever see liquid chlorine or cal hypo increase your alkalinity is because acid negates it. So the way it works is HOCl, hypochlorous acid, the badass killing form of chlorine, oxidizes something or kills something. It loses its oxygen and it creates hydrochloric acid, HCl, and it almost perfectly neutralizes itself. So even though the product liquid chlorine has a very high pH of about 13 and cal hypo has a high pH of about 11 something, once chlorine actually does its job, it brings its own pH down, but not quite. It's like 90-some%. I'm sure there's a calculation for it. Bob Lowry's probably published it. I'd have to look for it, but essentially it's almost a wash, but it's not. And that small percentage of additional hydroxide, sodium hydroxide for liquid chlorine, calcium hydroxide for cal hypo, it contributes to alkalinity. And if you don't neutralize that with acid, it actually builds. This is exactly why pools that use carbon dioxide systems for pH management see their alkalinity go up. CO2 is not adding alkalinity to your pool. The chlorine is. And that's what I noticed. I'm having torrential rainstorms and I'm vacuuming here and there and I'm diluting with hose water and my alkalinity out of the hose is 40. So it's not really a big source of alkalinity. And yet, every time I tested this pool, my alkalinity was between 5 and 6 drops. It was between 50 and 60. It was amazing. Like every time. I don't think there was a single exception to this. It was in between 5 and 6 drops the entire summer. I call that predictable. And yeah, I realize I probably got lucky that I had the right amount of dilution for this. But essentially what I'm saying here is I hardly had to do anything to this pool chemically. Pretty amazing. So I'm going to be adding 3.36 pounds to get up to 70 parts per million. I don't need 80, I don't need 90, I don't need 100 because I'm going to have 520 calcium hardness. Now, it may not be perfect. I may need to raise that. But it gives me a favorable pH ceiling so that when my temperature drops, that pH is going to stay at its ceiling and I'm going to be insulated for the winter. I've thought this through. At least that's my plan. And you know what? If I screw up and I grow calcium crystals or something, all the better for the audience. I don't mind eating some humble pie here and there, but I don't think it's going to be a problem because I'm going to let my pH stay high. I'm going to let physics continue to take me through the winter because, hey, they took me through the summer. These laws of physics never went anywhere. Super reliable. And if I go back to May 14th, it was 8.41 pounds of bicarb. Add that to 3.36 pounds. Let's just call it 12 pounds of bicarb for the year. Yeah, 24,000 gallon pool, about 12 pounds of bicarb will be consumed for the year. Now, let's keep moving. As I said before, I did 3 filter cleanings and backwashes. Each used a 6-pound bag of DE, plus the original charging of that new filter grid that Rick installed for me. That's 4 bags total. That's 24 pounds of DE. Not so bad. Of the Orenda products, I used 146 ounces, 1.14 gallons of CV600 this summer. And that was since the purge. So if I include the purge, it was 1.77 gallons total. Again, I have 24,000 gallons approximately. If you have a pool about that size and you're thinking of implementing this program, get 2 gallons. You'll be fine. You may have some left over like I do. But as far as I can tell, that's the reason my pool stayed so clear. And I mean that seriously because the 2 mudslides and the leaves every day and all the organic material getting in there, these enzymes rocked. I don't have a scum line. My water looked great. I had 2 dogs in there for 6 hours on one day, and I did a Facebook Live. Now, some people will say a dog is worth 50 people. I don't really buy that. The better number I've heard is about 7 people. That's probably more accurate, but I don't know. Maybe it is 50 people. Maybe it's between 7 and 50. Who cares? It didn't matter because CV600 was in there working while I sleep. I think that's what really made this possible to keep this pool as clean as it was because it was beautiful all summer long except for 2 rainstorms. And they cleared quick. 1.77 gallons of CV600 on the year for me. And by the way, because I've been using it consistently every single week, 12 ounces a week, 12 ounces a week, 12 ounces a week, I don't have to purge this fall. I already have my enzyme residual. My water temperature is 67 today. So I'm done for the year. I'm not going to use it again until I purge in the spring. I should be good. And I know there's a ton of leaves getting in there, but the enzymes are in there. They're slowing down, but they're still in there. As for PR 10,000 phosphate remover, I used a total of 64 ounces after the purge. And that was in 16-ounce increments every single time. So if I add in the purge, that's a total of 144 ounces or 1.13 gallons. If I didn't have to do the green pool cleanup, I would say 2 quarts. For a 24,000 gallon pool, that's really all I used. You could probably get away with that. If I'm a homeowner with a pool my size, I get a gallon and I roll it over because it's going to get you through much of your next season. None of our products expire unless they freeze. So I would just store it inside for the winter and we're off and running. So as a recap, I didn't have to add any bicarb all summer since May 14th, which is astounding to me. But again, the chlorine was doing that in my favor. So if you have a salt system, you probably would. But then again, I wasn't adding any acid. So if you're not adding any acid and you're letting physics do it for you, you may not have to. I relied on Henry's law. I had a theory that if I set my pH ceiling into the green on our calculator and that the LSI is balanced at that pH ceiling, I would be fine. I'm happy to report I was right. I have cyanuric acid. Oh, that's the one thing I forgot to mention. I added about 8 pounds of granular cyanuric acid. Here it is, just under 8 pounds. And that was to get my level up to 40. And then I re-upped that on July 10th. I added another 3.2 pounds. I wanted to be between 30 and 50 cyanuric acid. And it worked. It worked really well. I did not add a single ounce of trichlor to this pool at all. I have successfully used physics and not had to fight my pool. It is a beautiful thing. My question to you is, if you were using traditional pool care methods, how much acid would you have gone through this year? 22 weeks. Half gallon a week? A gallon a week? 22 gallons maybe? Maybe 11, somewhere between those two. What about bicarb? You probably would have gone through at least 25 pounds of that. Probably would have gone through a lot more chlorine. I'm not going to try to prove a hypothetical. I'm not there. Every pool is a little bit different. But what I do know is this. Physics always had my back, and I never violated it. I let my pH rise up to 8.02, the pH ceiling, and it stayed there. My LSI never got unbalanced. All I had to do was clean leaves, vacuum periodically, I chlorinated, put enzymes in each week, and do basically a monthly treatment of PR 10,000. That's what I did. I didn't have any chemical conflicts. I didn't have any long-term byproducts left behind. And everything I did was proactive. You can do this too. Now, commercial operators listening, you don't have the luxury of being able to do what I did because I let my pH go up. Because I had cyanuric acid, my chlorine was there, and it was there to perform. I kept my pH at the pH ceiling of about 8.02. And yes, it fluctuated here and there because of the rain and the dilution, but generally speaking, it was right around there. On the test kit, it was appearing to be perfectly on 8 every single time, exactly where I wanted it. You can't let yours go up over 7.8 as it stands now. I get it. But I could. And most residential people here listening can do the same thing if they want. As long as you have some CYA, you can do that. I only saw 2 or 3 spots, and I mean spots less than a quarter, of algae the entire summer. And they were after the mudslides. And they brushed off no problem. But I did see them both on August 10th and on August 31st because of the mudslides. I brushed it. They never came back. They never got hold. I have not had an algae problem. So it makes sense. Like with a mudslide, you're literally putting soil and grass and all sorts of stuff in there. And then I come back from a trip and my pool is brown and green from the stream. But I didn't have an algae problem. My chlorine performed fine. Every time I tested it, I had a residual. That's astounding. Can't hold chlorine for a week. The way I was able to do it was I chlorinated 2 times a week. Now, I understand for the pool pros listening to this, you're there once every 7 days. I get it. This is not meant to be a playbook for you to implement it exactly like I did. I did this to prove a point. It's not us making this up. We didn't invent these physics. We didn't invent Henry's Law. We didn't invent the LSI. All we're doing is sharing it with you. It's real. You don't have to believe it, but it's still going to happen. Anyway, that's how I ruled my pool. This has been episode 127. Thank you for listening to me find a way to somehow brag about this fixer-upper pool that is not pretty, but the water was beautiful. I'm Eric Knight with Orenda. Thank you so much for listening. If you have questions, our help center is ask.orendatech.com. Of course, the main website is just orendatech.com. If you have questions for me or episode suggestions, the email address is podcast@orendatech.com. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you for listening to Rule Your Pool, a podcast by Orenda Technologies. For more information on what we discussed in this week's episode, check the links in the description or visit www.orendatech.com.
I hope you find this show valuable enough that you tap that subscribe button and share it with your friends. You can also like us on Facebook and social media. And with our help, you'll be able to rule your pool without over-treating it with chemicals and wasting money. I'll see you next episode.